Virtual reality is the future of gaming. Sure, it might look silly to wave your head around with a big box stuck to it, but goddamn is it fun. We've come a long way from outdated concepts like the Virtual Boy. Soon you won't even need a headset or controllers. You'll just need a chip in your head that'll make you look like a mindless drone swinging your arms around like a psycho. Ever since a small indie company released their tiny little passion project, I've seen a lot of haters for VR.
Just block out the haters. If I'm wearing this, I can't see them.
It's disappointing to see people who haven't even tried VR disregard it as a mere fad. Ever since I managed to snag my VR headset for a good price on eBay, I haven't looked back. I'm a full believer that virtual reality is the future, and I'm willing to put it all on the line to defend it. So strap into your headsets and grab your controllers, because it is time to jam.
3, 2, 1, let's jam.
I killed a man with this thumb.
Gaming has a lot in common with other mediums. Story, cinematography, music, it has it all. They even both have terrible fan bases. But what does it have that the others don't? Interaction. Games are all about inputting controls to make your own choices. Open world games are popular for a reason, but why stay tied down to primitive tools such as the keyboard and mouse? Instead, try touch controls and smooth locomotion. Anything physically possible is now doable. To understand this better, let's compare a non-VR and VR game. Half-Life 2, and since someone isn't released yet, I guess we'll use Boneworks. Half-Life 2 was revolutionary for its use of physics, creating one of the most interactive games for its time thanks to its object interaction. No, you pick it up! But couldn't this be improved? What if you could take that can and beat the Combine with it instead?
Yeah.
In Boneworks you can, with VR touch controls allowing the player to use virtually anything they want as a weapon, letting you put some real power behind all of your actions. You spend more of your game time looking through items rather than just trying to progress, and sometimes you find a classic item that's actually meant to be used as a weapon. Half-Life's crowbar is iconic, but in retrospect, you walk up to Combine, hold M1, and watch them slowly drop dead. But what if you could make this much more interesting? Here we have an enemy, and here we have a crowbar. Just how many different ways can we take him down? Hit him in the head, hit him in the back, impale him with the bottom end, pull his legs, pull his neck, choke him out, shove him away, just bonk him. You have so much freedom on how you take on any task that it's actually a bit daunting.
Help!
Look, there's no such thing as spoiled for choice, but in VR you get hundreds of options. Take these little head crabs. In Half-Life, these guys were kind of scary, but take the same concept into VR? It's safe to say I'm really not looking forward to actual head crabs in Half-Life Alyx. Thankfully, if you're prepared mentally, you can take care of these guys in a way fitting just how much they scared you.
Die! Die! Die, you demon from hell!
Being able to grab and throw enemies is so satisfying, and not many regular games let you do this kind of stuff. Half-Life 2 did let you control objects to an extent, its physics engine making the game what it was. But of course, it just can't beat the power of hands.
I can jerk off with them!
No. You're allowed so much precision in how you move items, and seeing as you can get up close to check stuff out, puzzles can be far easier to understand. Somehow, Boneworks items actually do feel heavy thanks to their simulated weight. Stacking items to climb terrain has never been so easy and yet so difficult. Or better yet, just climb over like you're playing Mirror's Edge. There is so much choice with VR. It says a lot about virtual reality when the simple act of reloading your weapon can be more fun than a whole level of some games. It can be intense trying to reload in the middle of a firefight, but this intensity is ramped up to 11 in a game like Pavlov. You're not against AI here, so mess up and it's game over. Pushing in a mag, cocking the gun. These are the moments I live for. The most mundane things like pressing a button or turning a valve become the funnest parts of the gameplay. It's something you can't really understand unless you play VR. But hey, if you find that stuff boring, then there's always the alternative.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
The beauty of games like Blade and Sorcery is being able to choose your own fighting styles. Any weapon combination is yours to hone, and any sword skills that are physically possible are at your disposal. Shield and fist? Knock yourself out. Dagger and sword? I mean, it's a free country. Using just an arrow. Why? I can't tell you how many times I've blown off some steam by hacking enemies to death in this game. And while the thrill of medieval combat is great, sometimes you just want to
kill some Jedi scum. You will bow to the power of the dark side. Your skills are no match for me. Oh wait, I don't want to kill any younglings. No. Oh my god.
To sum it all up, VR is the ultimate form of freedom you can have in a game. Every action has to be physically done, and isn't just a canned animation behind a button press. You effectively create your own animations. It's much easier to get immersed in a world when you're doing everything by yourself. And it breaks through all those archaic limitations regular video games have. But, of course, that would be hypocritical of me because, well, VR has a lot of limitations. Now, don't get me wrong, the pros outweigh the cons for me personally, but it just wouldn't be fair to label VR consumer ready. It's far from it. I mean, the price for the right hardware is a big enough turnoff. On a budget, you're looking at spending about $150 to $300 on the VR alone. And that doesn't include the hardware, which at a minimum could cost up to $500. But if you want to go all out, you're easily looking at around $1,000 for a Valve Index, and easily over that for the hardware.
There goes our grant money.
It's understandable why someone may not want to try VR, because that's a very big leap of faith to try something. And that's not even accounting the amount of space you need for it. I barely have enough room as it is, and constantly end up hitting my bookshelf on my desk. I even smashed my TV while searching for the best spot to set up my VR space. I'm not the brightest person. These are fair criticisms for virtual reality, and it's easy to understand why people would be hesitant to embrace it, which isn't helped by the lack of quality games. Boneworks, Beat Saber, Blade and Sorcery, Pavlov. These are all fun games, don't get me wrong, but none of them feel like a finished game. What virtual reality needs is a AAA game studio to make a game so good, so amazing, that it creates a boom in the VR market. Alas, I've given up all hope of that ever happening. Huh?
This should make you feel better.
It's beautiful. Half-Life Alyx is the perfect game to promote virtual reality. Half-Life has always been a series about showing off brand new technology, and they haven't disappointed us with this edition. If there's any way to convince people to buy a VR headset, it's to bring back a 13-year-old beloved game franchise. We know very little about the game, and I'm planning to do a follow-up review of it after its release, but it's looking to tick all the boxes of interaction I've hounded throughout this video. Though the reveal brought around its haters,
Block out the haters! Block out the haters!
I think most people are slowly realizing that this is for a reason. Valve believes in VR just as much as I do, and the hopeful outcome is this game will be so good that it couldn't be made without it, inspiring every other big game developer to start looking into making their own VR games or even systems. Valve just started the butterfly effect for virtual reality, and I'm all here for it. But let's not try to jinx anything here. Now, if Half-Life Alyx comes out and is an amazing game, VR is certainly going to benefit from it. But if it flops, then everyone is probably going to stop caring about the potential of it. It's a lot of pressure to put on Valve, but even if it flops, Steam is essentially a giant cash machine to fund all of their passion projects. People will come around eventually. VR has already developed so much in the last decade. It's going to become more mainstream and accessible to the general consumer. So if you haven't had the chance to try virtual reality, take any opportunity you can. And even though I can't tell you what to do, maybe just take the leap of faith. I mean, I certainly did, and I haven't looked back. but I really do believe virtual reality is where gaming was always going to lead to. Why would anyone choose a basic keyboard and mouse over something so complex and immersive? This is the future as we know it. And if you're not on board, then you're nothing but a boomer.
Oh my god!